What's up, everyone? This is Duststorm from Podtacular, and on this episode of Pod TV, we're going to be taking a look at the exclusive Halo 4 Forge footage from Gamestop that came out last week, and we get to see the 3 new Forge environments, which are Erosion, Impact, and Ravine, one of which we've seen at RTX before, and 2 new ones, and we're going to get a look at some of the new features that we have in Forge for you to use in Halo 4. The first video that got released detailed some of the new forging options that you have. To review on some of the stuff that was shown at RTX but necessarily wasn't gone into too much detail, there is now highlighting of objects. That means whenever you are hovering over an object and it's highlighted, you know that object is selected and you know what mode that object is in. So if an object is red, that means it is locked in position. If it's yellow, that means you currently have it selected and you're moving it around. And if it's green, that means you're hovering over it, and if you select it, that's the one you're going to select. When you hover over objects, they are also labeled so you know what the name of the object is that you're selecting. There's also duplication of objects when you hit down on the D-pad when you're hovering over an object. And also there are dynamic shadows. That means whenever you go out of Forge mode or monitor mode back into regular player mode, dynamic shadows are created and shadows are casted on for the Forge objects and the rest of the environment casted by the objects that you have placed. Moving on to the new stuff that we have in Forge, we saw a demonstration of magnets, but we now see that there are little orange snap points that help you know where the magnet spots are. Any of these orange snap points will snap together, which makes forging objects together a lot easier than it was in Halo Reach. We see for the first time forgeable ordnance drops, and there's 3 different types. There's an initial ordnance drop, there's a random ordnance drop, and an objective ordnance drop. The initial one is the ones that spawn on the initial loadout of the map. A random one is one that randomly spawns throughout the duration of the match. And then an objective one is based on when an objective is complete. So this could be capturing a flag, planting a bomb, or some other options that we don't know of yet. The next feature we have is the introduction of gravity volumes. This is kind of a play off of player trait zones, but it affects everything in the map, not just your Spartan. So it affects projectiles, grenades, vehicles, anything else that could be affected by gravity physics in the world. There are 2 different kinds of gravity volumes, ones that are invisible and ones that are visible. So if you want to communicate to players that there's a gravity volume there, you can set it to visible, and if not, you can set it to invisible. The gravity volumes are stackable, which means that the effects of the gravity volumes compound on each other, creating an overall gravity effect. We also have more deletion options where you can delete by palette, which can include human weapons, human vehicles, and other groups of objects. Or you can also delete an entire set of objects. So whenever you want to go and just clear out a map of all the objects on it, you can do that as well. Things to note is that when you do delete by palette or delete all, they do not delete locked objects. So if you want to create a baseline map, and if you just don't like it and you want to start from scratch, you can do delete all, and the baseline that you have established, if you've locked every piece, will not be deleted. When you use player trait zones in Forge, they are customizable from the start menu. So whenever you place a player trait zone and you're highlighting over it, you hit start, and then there will be an option to customize your player trait zones. One thing I noticed when looking through the video is that there's player trait channels. So I'm wondering if this means that you'll be able to tie player trait zones to one team or another, or maybe tie it to if a team is in a hog, or other additional conditions that you can set. That covers all the new Forge functionality that got covered in the first video that was released. In the next video, they talk about the 3 Forge environments that you'll be able to use in Halo 4, each of them having their own different palette. The first one that gets covered is Erosion, which looks vaguely familiar to Waterworks and has a similar feel. It's located inside a cave and it has 3 distinct playable areas. There's an interior area which is primarily played for Griffball, which is the one that we saw at PAX. Outside the interior space, there is a natural terrain area with a tiered layout, which introduces nice little tunnels and shelves that you can utilize. A prime game type example that they were using in the video was the flood mode, but it also looks like it would be very useful for one-sided game types. The final area is a cave area that's underneath the shelf of the natural terrain and is located by some water. Now if you go out into the water, you have a big open space that you can forge objects in without being impeded by other terrain. Overall, I think this map's most utilized area is probably going to be the natural terrain area. Having an interior Griffball court is nice, but I feel like a lot of people are going to use the Ravine map for Forge and forge some nice new custom Griffball maps. The next Forge map on the list is Impact, which is a map that's actually in outer space completely. This isn't something like Anchor 9 where part of it's outside in outer space and part of it's inside of some ship. This map is completely outside on 2 asteroids. The Forge palette on Impact is UNSC based with nice little tunnels and buildings that you can put on the asteroids. There's one UNSC base on the big asteroid that is multi-tiered, which you can use almost as its own enclosed area for gameplay. The other smaller asteroid is more of an open area asteroid that you can use as a blank canvas and build from the ground up. And the developers also mentioned that the space around the asteroids is pretty vast and you can go out pretty far and build your own space station-like map. The last map, which we have seen before, is Ravine. We saw this one at RTX where they played Achievement Horse for the first time on Halo 4. It's classic Forerunner architecture and Halo theme. On one side of the ravine, we have a standalone Forerunner structure that can be used as an enclosed space for gameplay. On the other side of the ravine, we have a big rolling hills area that can be used for big team game types such as Slayer or Capture the Flag. And if you want, you can also forge stuff down the ravine and up the cliffside of the rolling hills. The map makers have actually been pretty lenient with the floor and ceilings of the Forge maps to allow for more creativity. Also, on the open side of the ravine is a huge open area that you can use to build floating maps similar as you do in Forge and Halo Reach. Now, of course, big racetrack maps that have taken up the whole map of Forge World are not going to be easily made in Forge here, but for most of the games that have been played on Forge World, all the maps that have been made can be easily contained in this open area that's been given to us in Ravine. The final video that got introduced on Gamestop is a quick tutorial on how to make a map. The developers go into detail on how to create a baseline of your map, placing weapon spawns, implementing line of sight blockers, and other little tips to make your map strategic yet fun at the same time. In conclusion, the introduction of 3 Forge environments with different palettes each is something that a lot of Forgers have wanted for a while. This kind of moves away from the dull gray and green environment that Forge World introduced. There are a lot of good Forge maps in Halo Reach. Unfortunately, due to the color palette of Forge World, not very many maps held high appeal. This, of course, is a huge change in Halo 4's Forge system, and with the introduction of the additional Forge tools, these Forge experts are going to be able to make maps a lot more quickly and be able to make them in greater numbers. Now, some people are worried about Forge maps being polluted with some other Forgers that aren't necessarily good at it or just starting out and learning how to use the Forge system. And while that may be the case, you're going to see a lot of Forge experts utilize these tools to their fullest extent and be able to produce quality maps that might even surpass the quality that we saw in Halo Reach. I'm willing to bet we'll see a lot of classic custom game types and game maps created within the first month or so of Halo 4, just because of how easy it is now to lay out a map and implement your idea into Forge. That pretty much wraps up this video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Remember guys, Halo 4 is only 3 weeks away. So while we're trying to crunch out content for you guys here on YouTube, be sure you listen to our podcast where we talk about all the Halo news as it comes out. It's a lot easier for us to produce the podcast than it is to do the movies, so make sure you listen to that. If you're one of those people that likes to exclusively get your news from YouTube, I suggest checking out some other channels that we're good friends with. You can check out Ready Up Live, Duquesne23, Naked Eli, and Bravo MLG. Links to their channels are going to be in the description. As Halo 4 comes near to the launch day, I can guarantee you that they're going to be pushing out content as much as they can, so make sure you go over and subscribe to their channels. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.